Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, June the 25th, 2024. It is currently 1:26 p.m. Central Time, and I am coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, for this podcast, I try to do a lot of different things. I try to throw a lot of variety out, right? Sometimes I turn on the microphone and, I try to give you a pop quiz. Sometimes I turn on the microphone and just give you assignments, right? It may be because we're doing a Bible study exercise, and I'll be, a Bible study exercise or something like that. And I'm like, okay, look this up, do this, use this Bible study method, do this, do a word study, whatever the case may be. Sometimes, I'm turning on the microphone, telling you to go listen to other people. Go listen to random sermons on the Sermons 2.0 app. There's so many different things I try to do on the podcast. A lot of variety. I don't know if the average listener even notices all of the variety. I don't know if the average listener even cares. Look, it's easy to take you've got so much content available to you. I don't even know how much the average listener really even pays attention to what a podcaster is attempting to do, right? I think as a podcaster, you can make yourself think you're more important than you really are. Because the reality is you're just another voice and an ocean of voices. You're just content and an ocean of content and a universe of content. You're just like a little speck of sand, right? You're really not that significant. No matter all the numbers, even if you have giant numbers, it really doesn't translate into actually being significant, because a lot of people just tune in like they tune into anything else. They could take it or leave it. If it was to disappear tomorrow, they wouldn't even notice. And that's just the reality. So I don't know if people pay attention to all the different things I try to do, but I do try a lot of different things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I like doing them, sometimes I'm conflicted. And this is one of those broadcasts I'm going to be somewhat conflicted, because there are times that I just like to turn on the microphone really to provide you information, saying, hey, go check this out. Hey, this is now available, like the Charles Stanley Institute. That was more information. I told everyone about it. There's different times I just kind of point you to resources or tell you about something, or, hey, this book is out. Now, sometimes I can find a way to provide some kind of teaching in it, but in many cases, it's just turning on the microphone and providing information. I don't know if that's beneficial. I hope it is. But this is one of those cases that, I was checking my email inbox, and while I received some information, I was somewhat confused by the information I received. So then I did a little bit of research. I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe I should tell everyone about this so that they can choose which direction they want to go, because they could possibly save a whole lot of money. Okay. So are you ready? A little bit of information. Now, many of you, I assume have read the Bible. And so you're very familiar with Psalm 119. Psalm 119, this amazing Psalm. It is, we can look at it really quick. Psalm 119. I've done teaching on Psalm 119. I think my teaching on Psalm 119 was pretty decent. I could probably do better if I put forth the effort. Maybe at some point, maybe by the end of the summer, we'll make Psalm 119 a focus for a couple of weeks. But Psalm 119 has 176 verses. Psalm 119 has 176 verses. So that makes it a very lengthy psalm. But what's so fascinating about it is most believe that out of those 176 verses, the majority, almost maybe 98, 99% of them really point to and they are about the Word of God. They are about the scriptures themselves. They're about the law of God. There's lots of different phrases used, but they're describing the Word of God. 176 verses talking about the Word of God. So there's been plenty of sermons on Psalm 119 and lots of books written about Psalm 119 and lots of commentaries on it. you should be familiar with many of them. But if a new one supposedly comes out, well, not really a new one, a new old one has supposedly made its return so that you can grab this classic book that I guess disappeared but is back, you may want to know about it, right? Maybe. Well, here's what happened. Let me explain. All right. I received an email at 12:17 p.m. 12:17 p.m. today, June the 25th. So a little over an hour ago. The subject line was, Charles Bridges' Psalm 119 is back. Wait, Charles Bridges' Psalm 119 is back? Now, immediately I had to stop and go, wait a minute. When did Charles Bridges' Psalm 119 ever go away? I must have missed this memo. Now, if you don't know who Charles Bridges is, we'll talk about it. But just say Charles Bridges is an author of a commentary on Psalm 119 that is highly respected. Some may refer to it as a classic. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. When did his commentary go away? I thought it was always available. I'm like, wait, like I'm a little perplexed. Like I know I have looked at Charles Bridges on Psalm 119 multiple times. I don't know if I would ever even put it in my favorite. I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I would have to go back and look at it. It's been a while, but I just like, when did it go away and who's bringing it back? So here's the information. Again, this was sent to me at 12:17 p.m., June the 25th. Again, the subject line, Charles Bridges' Psalm 119 is back. And again, I'm a little confused. This email comes to me from the Banner of Truth. Banner of Truth. Now, Banner of Truth puts out some amazing resources. Banner of Truth really focuses on Puritan books, right? In fact, they have the famous Puritan paperbacks. If you can get a collection of those, I think everyone should have them. I don't remember how many is in the total set. It's 30, 35? I don't even remember. 20, 25? At my church, we've had most of the Puritan paperbacks in the library at different times. I think now most of them have disappeared and are gone. People take them and they never come back. But that's okay. My joke is, take the book. As long as you're using it, I don't care if it ever comes back, right? So because we've tried throughout the years of the church to try to provide as many resources in the library as possible. Now, if I'm just being painfully honest and kind of blunt and rude, it really was an exercise in futility. Because if I take all the books that have been in the library and go tell you how many have actually ever been taken out of the library, read, or used, most of the time it's me taking the books out of the library and using them. I would say 98% of the books have never even been touched. Okay, which once again goes back to content. You've got so much available. Why do you need it there? And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. It's like, I'm kind of wish there would be someone like, hey, you've got a library at your church. Nobody's using it. I'll come get all the books. Come get them all. You can have the bookshelves. You can have every single book in the library. You can have everything that's there, okay? And some of the books we have in the library we would strongly disagree with, but we have them there for research purposes, and for people we can refer to them at any time. But for the most part, they've just been. I don't think there's any way to get around it. They have not been utilized very well. I think at one time we even had we had lots of books by Banner of Truth, published by Banner of Truth, but I think at one time we even had a Charles Bridges on Psalm 119 commentary in the library itself. It's currently gone, but I'm pretty sure it's there. We've had the fundamentals. Well, I've talked about that 4-volume set forever, and you've heard me in sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon tell everyone in my church, read the fundamentals, read them, and yet those 4 books still sit at the table behind the pulpit, and they have yet to ever be borrowed or used. Okay, so I don't know. What does that tell you? I don't know. I don't know what that tells you. But the Banner of Truth, if you can get the Puritan paperbacks, I think they're well worth it. Do I agree with everything the Puritans did? Obviously not. Okay. You know how much I love Salem, Massachusetts, right? That's a good example of where Puritanism didn't even follow their own rules. Okay, they lost their minds. Okay, they just went absolutely crazy. We could talk about how Puritanism got everything wrong in Salem, but I am always fascinated. I've always had on one hand, I've always been defensive of the Puritans, because I think they're misrepresented in many cases. There's always kind of like when you talk about the Puritans or your puritanical view on purity or whatever the case may be, it's almost stated almost as something negative, right? It's not like a Puritan or Puritanism is not necessarily stated as something good. We could talk about Puritans and their dislike for Christmas. All right, we could do a lot of discussion about it. But I've always been in some ways want to defend them because I feel like people misrepresent them. And there used to be a magazine called Christian History that I used to subscribe to. I loved that magazine. And they dedicated an entire issue to the Puritans and Puritanism. And I loved it because it was like they had an entire 2-page layout of all the misconceptions and myths about the Puritans. And I loved that. That always gave me an ability to somewhat try to defend them. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things about the Puritans that I very much dislike. So I can find myself defending them, and then I can find myself criticizing them, especially when it comes to Salem, Massachusetts and the witch trials. I have some very negative feelings about how things went down there. At the same time, the more you kind of understand what had been happening in Salem and how, there had been a lot of people dying because of disease and you can kind of see that there was maybe just a great amount of fear and concern and especially if you have in your mindset that if bad things are happening, it's Satan, and if good things are happening, it's God. We could get into a whole discussion right there. But to say all of that, right, just trying to add a little bit, remember I said this is going to be just kind of providing information here. One of those episodes where I feel like I may not be accomplishing much, but so I'll try to throw in a little extra there. But the point is I think every Christian should be very familiar with the Puritans. I mean, it's a very important part of church history, their theology, their writings. And the one thing about the Puritans, not only did they write a lot, now the difficult thing about it, they wrote a lot, but sometimes they were way so wordy that it makes it very difficult. One of my great regrets, I feel like my great failures, right, as a broadcaster, as a teacher, is I have yet to ever be able to really take the Christian and Complete Armor, right, this classic Puritan book, dealing with spiritual warfare. I have never been able to really find a way to teach it in a way that's beneficial. I've owned the Christian and Complete Armor in so many different sets, so many different, the full work, the works that were kind of edited down to make it easier, modernized, original language, everything. And I have attempted multiple times to turn on a microphone and try to teach through it. And I fail miserably. The way it is written, the verbiage, there's words that I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world are they talking about at times? And it's just, I can read it, but it's very different than sitting there in a microphone trying to go, okay, well, all right, they use this word. Well, this word means, you've got to do hours of really prep work to try to kind of just say, here's the section and here's the specific thing. We're not going to read all of it. And a lot of times I just like to work through the book word for word. So I still regret that. I wish one day I could, find a way to accomplish that. And if I remember correctly, I believe the Christian and Complete Armor, I think it's published by Banner of Truth. I could be wrong. I'm looking around the room to see if I have a copy anywhere. They may be in the church library, but I know I have the volume somewhere because I have attempted multiple times, and every time it just fails miserably. So it's one of those, maybe before I die, I can do something meaningful and tangible with that series of books. But the point is, that's the Puritans. Banner of Truth puts out Puritan books. Okay, so there's a little bit about it. Now, so the heading is Charles Bridges, Psalm 119 is back. Again, I never knew it departed, but okay. Charles Bridges wrote this classic commentary on Psalm 119. The email comes to me from banneroftruth.org. And then underneath that, there's a picture of the book. There's next to it. Unfortunately, it looks like a pen versus a pencil, so you already know Banner of Truth is heretical. Okay, but it looks like a pen. Then there's the book right there, Psalm 119 in exposition. Charles Bridges, looks like a beautiful cover on it, hardback. Right next to that looks, unfortunately, a cup of coffee. I don't know who drinks coffee. You know, if you got a pen and coffee, you're just basically of Antichrist. If you've got both of those going on, pen and coffee, you cannot even be saved. Okay, all right. But there's the photograph. And then underneath that, it says Psalm 119 back in stock. First published in 1827, when Charles Bridges was just 33 years of age, this masterful exposition of Psalm 119 is worth its weight in gold, according to Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Bridges uses the psalm structured according to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet to teach both the ABC of Christian experience and the maturity to which that experience must lead. That sounds pretty fascinating, right? How did he structure it? What was he hoping to accomplish? Now, the book originally is normally $35. They currently have it in stock and they're selling it for $28. Now, again, I was somewhat perplexed. Why is it back? It's always been it's always there. So if you go to Amazon.com right now, and I don't want to take away any business from Banner of Truth, but a lot of people may have a hard time dropping basically with shipping and everything. That's going to be over $30. You may have a hard time dropping over $30 for this book. You may have a hard time doing it. You may be like, man, $30. I got this to pay, or I got this to do. I got this to do. So, but at the same time, it's a classic book that everyone should have access to, right? Now, there were times in this podcast where I had far more money, so we gave away books. So if it was up to me right now, I'd be doing a book giveaway and giving away copies of the book. But, I don't have the money to do so. Again, I always say the more money that comes in, the more things I can do. But at this point in time, I don't have the ability to do that. So I went on Amazon.com and I just typed in Charles Bridges, Psalm 119. Immediately, the first one that shows up, an exposition of Psalm 119 by Charles Bridges. For the Kindle, 99 cents. For paperback, $11.95. And for hardcover, $27. So if you have a Kindle, or even if you don't have a Kindle, the Kindle app, you can actually have access to the book for 99 cents. If you go down, they have another version for the Kindle for $4.99. They have, and that one comes $40 for the hardcover. You can go look down there. They have another one, Exposition of Psalm 119, a classic reprint, illustrative of the character and exercise of Christian experience. Paperback, $25. So they have it in a number of different formats and available in a lot of different ways. Here's Psalm 119, an exposition, new edition. Well, that one, they don't have it. I'm sorry, it's not available. Well, no, they have it for, if you want to buy a used copy, for almost $60. So, some of these are just ridiculous, right? But you can get a copy of the book itself for relatively cheap. I would challenge you. Now, if you want to support Banner of Truth and their work to constantly try to preserve and reprint and publish the works of the Puritans, then by all means buy it from Banner of Truth, because in a roundabout way, you're not only getting the book, but you're helping support them. All right. But if you want a copy of the book and you don't have $30-something, go on Amazon.com, type in Charles Bridges, Psalm 119, and you can get a copy, and it's relatively cheap. In fact, I did just that. I think I have a number of copies of it in my library. In fact, let me go to my Kindle app. I'm going to the Kindle app on my iPad. My actual Kindle's over there charging because I need to finish a novel that I started a long time ago and I'm way behind on. But all right. So here's the preface. All right, and see here what they have here. It looks like a lot of introductory material, which would be beneficial. Okay, they got all, okay, and then here's part 1. Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord. This most interesting and instructive psalm, like the Psalter itself, opens with a beatitude for our comfort and encouragement, directing us immediately to that happiness which all mankind in different ways are seeking and inquiring after. All would secure themselves from the incursions of misery, but all do not consider that misery is the offspring of sin, from which therefore it is necessary to be delivered and preserved in order to become happy or blessed. And actually, Charles Bridges there is quoting from someone else. All right. So, but there's part 1, and yeah, you should have a copy of it, and you should start looking at it and start reading it. If I go back to the email from banneroftruth.org, this is what they say underneath it. So then they have a picture of the book. They have that little paragraph that I've read to you. Then they have a picture of, I'm assuming that's Charles Bridges. And then underneath that it says, and I quote, think what good reason there is to love the law. It is the epistle of our most beloved friend, not to be slighted, but to be placed in our bosom, nearest our hearts. Charles Bridges. Then they have some more pictures of the book. And then they say what readers are saying. The first review comes from someone by the name of Beverly, and they say this: I have always understood that Psalm 119 is about the Word of God. What I'm finding in Bridges is that it is about how the Christian experiences the Word of God in about 176 ways. He finds the essence of a verse and shows the truth of it from many other scriptures using illustrations where appropriate. He shows how the verse fits with the previous verse. He is very Christ-centered throughout, showing the necessity and effects of the gospel on the Christian. Someone else, their review is, this is a very practical commentary. The author had deep union with God and deep understanding of his word. He had a New Testament perspective on the psalm. His theology is evangelical. I have found helpful insights in this book, and I'm always amazed at the ability of Charles Bridges to find many connections of each verse with other Bible passages. This is the commentary which will never become out of date. And then one other, this book is wonderful. I've used it as a devotional reading and just read one verse a day. So good for the soul. Very heartwarming. So Banner of Truth, I guess it was out of print. I don't know. It's back. Maybe they did not have any copies. I don't know. It's back. I'm just perplexed that it's back. It never went away. There are websites. I guarantee you there are websites where you can read Charles Bridges' commentary on Psalm 119 for free. I guarantee you there are. You can probably find a PDF version in 5 seconds. So it's kind of weird that they're saying it's back. And again, the subject line, Charles Bridges, Psalm 119 is back. And then underneath the picture of the book, Psalm 119, back in stock. So it's back in stock for banneroftruth.org, but the book has always been present. And again, on one hand, I want to support Banner of Truth, because I'm very grateful for them preserving and keeping and continuing to publish these classic books. I think you could probably go to monergism.com. In fact, I think that's where I first got my copy of the book. Hang on, I'm going to go to monergism.com. Maybe if I could spell monergism. There we go, monergism.com. All right, and then you can see, where do they have it here? Hang on, start here. Okay, free books. You should get the monergism.com app if you can. But okay, here's free books. I'm just going to do a search. I'm going to type in Psalm 119. Yeah, here we go. Exposition of Psalm 119 ebook. There it is. So you can download it in an EPUB format, an MOBI format, or a PDF format. And it's free. So there you have it. I mean, yeah. So you can get the book for free if you want to. Go to monergism.com and just type in Psalm 119. And I think the first thing that shows up is Charles Bridges' exposition of Psalm 119 because it's such a classic book. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to buy the one from Banner of Truth, it looks really, really nice and it probably looks great. And if you like a hardback copy, then I would order it from Banner of Truth and help support them. But if you're just looking for the classic commentary on Psalm 119, then Charles Bridges. Now, I'm doing this to inform you, to point you to the resource, threw in a little bit of information. But most likely then what I will do, I'll try to make it a priority. I'll try to pull some things from his commentary on Psalm 119. And we'll use it either in a devotional message or we'll do it as we could use Psalm 119 for our Sermons 2.0 app sermon challenge. We could do that. We'll find a way to utilize it in some way, shape, or form. So find a copy of Charles Bridges' commentary on Psalm 119. If you cannot find a copy or you don't know what to do, email me, newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. What I may do is I may send a link out in the Church One app. It's the notices. They call them notices. It'll show up like a push notification. You'll get a notification on your device if you have the Church One app and you've made us Theology Central as your chosen broadcaster. It basically turns it into our app. So then I can send out a notice. I can send out a notice with a link to monergism.com, and then you can just have a copy of the book for free. Now, I'm not trying to take away the business from Banner of Truth, but again, maybe you've got $30 you can drop on a book. Maybe you do. And if you do, that's absolutely great. That's awesome. Give them your support. Okay? That's wonderful. But if you don't, you still need to be able to have access to the book, right? I mean, if it's a classic book and it can help benefit you spiritually, then let's get it into your hands. And so I may send out that notice here in a little bit. But there you have it. That's Psalm 119 by Charles Bridges. Famous, famous book. You can read the introductory material within the book, and I think then, I could offer some background information, but I mean, all of it's right there. It's all right there. So I would basically be borrowing from it. So I could basically read it to you, but you should read it for yourself. Does that sound good? Now, see, this is where I always end. I'm like, man, should I have done that broadcast? I didn't really do any teaching, but the goal here was not to teach. The goal was just to inform. So there you have it. If you do get emails from Banner of Truth, you've already seen that email today. And, you now know. And if anyone ever talks about Psalm 119, you can say, well, have you read the commentary of Psalm 119 by Charles Bridges? Now, some people believe his approach is very unique. You can tell me what you think. And you know what? It's okay. I know this is going to come as a shock. Hey, come here. Get close to your speaker. Sometimes these books that everyone says is a classic and that they're so amazing, sometimes they're really not that good. I said it. I know I'm not supposed to. Look, the first time I came into this realization, I didn't know what to do because I kept being told by everyone, my utmost for his highest, as Oswald Chambers, I believe, my utmost for his highest. That's the greatest devotional ever. You've got to get a copy. So I went to the Bible bookstore in Abilene, Texas, bought a copy. And after about 5 days of using it, I'm like, this is trash. This is horrible. First, his theology seems completely whacked from the people suggesting it. I don't know why you suggest it. And I can't stand it. There's been a lot of times people like, this is the classic book. And I'm like, what is the deal? And sometimes I just don't understand. I mean, everybody thinks Morning and Evening by Charles Haddon Spurgeon is the greatest devotional ever written. I'm sorry. What he does to those scriptures, I mean, come on, man. Now, it's very poetic. He's very good with language, and it sounds very pious and spiritual. But you spend a year in Morning and Evening by Charles Haddon Spurgeon, I don't think you're going to understand any of the verses he uses in his devotional material. I don't think you're going to understand those verses at all. I know people are going to yell at me, but I mean, I've tried. I mean, there have been numerous times at the beginning of a year, I'd buy a notebook, a pencil, and a hardback copy of Morning and Evening by Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I'm like, I'm going to go through this all year. Usually by the time I get to the end of January or February, I'm already like, I'm losing my mind. I'm like, this is insane. Charles Haddon Spurgeon, do something with the actual verse. You just take it and especially when he gets into the Song of Solomon. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just like, what is this? Oh, it drives me crazy. So it's okay if you look at Charles Bridges and you're kind of like, I'm not so sure about this. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. You won't lose rewards in heaven for being critical of what some people call is a Christian classic. I mean, this is a secret just between you and I, okay? So you can't tell anybody else. My whole Christian life, I have been told over and over and over and over again that The Lord of the Rings is the greatest thing ever written. I have been told that over and over and over and over again. The Lord of the Rings is ultimate hot trash. I would rather watch a dumpster fire than read The Lord of the Rings. It is trash. The movies were trash. The books are trash. I don't like anything. And I know, you can't say that. You can't say that because they act like The Lord of the Rings is like, I don't know, right there next to the Trinity, that it was inspired by God. And if you criticize it, then basically your Christianity is called into question. It's like every Christian should read The Lord of the Rings because it's this beautiful Christian analogy and allegory. And you're like, come on, try to explain. Just stop. You're just throwing stuff in there. Just drives me absolute mad. So, hey, it's perfectly okay that if you look at Charles Bridges, Charles Bridges, I was going to say Charles Bridges and his commentary and his exposition of Psalm 119, you may look at it and go, I don't get it. Why is this book so praised by so many? Or you may go, wow. That was amazing, because a lot of times what you like and dislike is very, very subjective. Now, I think objectively, Lord of the Rings is a dumpster fire, but that's my own objective truth, right? I mean, it's just true. Okay, I'm joking, but no, it can be very subjective. But I think sometimes we get caught up into this is the book everyone, you've got to read that. You've got to read that. I don't know how many times I've had it's usually Christian men. Oh, you've got to read that. That's like the best. And then you read it and you're like, I can't remember how many times I was told Matthew Henry's commentary. And I would go back to them going, this is like everything he says in Isaiah or Ezekiel goes against everything you believe about Isaiah and Ezekiel. He doesn't believe that's Israel. He believes that's the church. I mean, what do you're pre-mill dispensationalist and you think Matthew Henry is the greatest commentary ever written? Are you drinking something? I think a lot of times what I have discovered is that people they get, that's the book. And so they just continue to promote the book and they've never even actually read it. I don't know how many times in my Christian life someone's like, hey, you've got to read this. And they hand me the book and I would come back going, you gave me this book to promote your KJV only belief? This book contradicts your belief. What are you doing? Or as I got in trouble because my church in Nebraska kept handing out every quarter sermons by Charles Haddon Spurgeon. And so I picked them up and read every single word. And then when I started kind of moving towards a Calvinistic understanding of salvation, I almost got thrown out of the church. And I'm like, you were literally handing me the sermons by Charles Haddon Spurgeon that taught Calvinism. And now you're going to throw someone out of the church? And then they were all like, wait, they did? You handed them out. Did you not read them? So it's so weird how sometimes in Christianity, like some books just get elevated to like, these are the books. Well, sometimes they're not as good as you tell me they are. And sometimes you haven't even read them yourself, okay? So, but Charles Bridges, exposition of Psalm 119, highly regarded, well respected, recommended by many. Does it live up to the hype? Well, we'll probably do more discussing about it, but mainly I want you to go get a copy so that you can have a copy. And I want you to be able to get a copy up to your choice. You can get it from banneroftruth.org, support them, be about $30-something for a hardback copy. Probably will look beautiful, awesome, will look great in your bookshelf and collection. Probably will get years of use out of it. And by all means, do that. You can support them. But if you don't have $30, or you'd rather send me $30, I'm joking. You can get a copy of the book for free, or for like 99 cents for your Kindle. All right, so you find a copy, look at it, and then email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com, and here's what I want to know. It lives up to the hype, or I don't get it. I don't really get it. I would love to know your thoughts. Thanks for listening. Everyone have a great day. This has been another informative episode of the Theology Central podcast. I know I hate these episodes. I always feel like I let you down, but my job here is just to provide information. Hopefully it will be beneficial. Have a great day. God bless.